Take two.
All right, are we ready?
Yes, if so. Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I would like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Marla Billinghurst. I will be chairing the meeting this morning. With me on the panel are Ms. Michelle Duncan and Mr. Bill Moretsky. Mr. Jason Robertson is a recording secretary and Mr. Matthew Harling is assessor. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today, and the session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, and 9 on our docket today. Mr. Robertson, please affirm the assessor's and applicant's testimony. Thank you.
Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Matthew Harling.
Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Trevor Smith.
Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you very much. We will begin with number 1 on this morning's docket, 607 Logan Avenue. Mr. Harling, please proceed when you are ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The file number is 22-3682. The roll number is 1309-601-5300, and the address is 607 Logan Avenue. The 2023 assessed value based on a reference date of April 1st, 2021 is $780,000. If you look below in my brief at page 1, you'll see the property description information. This is parcel use is an industrial warehouse use. It's one-story building. The effective year built and actual year built are 1989. The wall heights are 16 feet. Property is zoned M2 manufacturing. The land area is 9,381 square feet with a leasable area of 6,424 square feet. Page 2 of my brief, you'll just see the request for income information has been received by the owner. Below that is the subject sale history. Well, there was a sale in 2019, but this was not a bona fide arm's length sale, so we're not putting any weight on that. And we have no subject leases in place. Now, if we go to page 3 of my brief, you'll see the breakdown of the income workup of the subject. So you'll see here we have 2 premises, and we have the total leasable area of 6,424 square feet. And we're applying an overall model rent of $8.51 a square foot. This gives us a potential rent of $54,668. You're allowing 6% for 5% for vacancy, which gives us the effective gross income of $51,115. We're applying 3% for non-recoverable expenses and $3.85 a square foot as shortfall to cost to cover a vacancy. This gives us an overall net operating income of $47,974. And lastly, we're applying a overall capitalization rate of 6.15%, which gives us the estimated market value of $780,000. If we turn to page 4 of my brief, you'll see my rent comparables. So my rent comparables range in lease start dates from 2017 to 2020. The lease terms range from 3 to 6 years. The leasable areas range from 2,120 square feet to 4,195 square feet. The wall heights range from 14 feet to 17 feet. The effective year builds range from 1955 to 1979. And the net rents range from $7.75 a square foot to $10.08 a square foot. And then if you just kind of look inside, you can see the location. So Winnipeg Avenue, these would be the closest. Phillips, Barrie, St. James would be in the St. James area as well as Sargent. So they're roughly in the same market region. So if we go to page 5 of my brief, it's just some information regarding our capitalization rates. So if you just look under the industrial section, 20 to 80% of our properties, for industrial properties, fall within the cap rates ranging from 5.5 to 7.45. Again, for this property, we're applying 6.15%, so it falls within our range. Looking at some of the other published rates, such as Collier, CRB, Cushman Wakefield, I believe our cap rate is still supported by them as well. Be looking at their range of indicated cap rates, and the cap rate would be based on factors such as the age, size, wall height, other characteristics of the building. So, being a smaller warehouse building, I believe the cap rate would be appropriate. On page 6 of my brief, this is just a municipal assessment active observed information. Turning to page 7, you'll just see a subject map of the subject property. So at the top, you'll just see kind of more of a zoomed out map, just showing where it's situated within the city on Logan Avenue. And at the bottom of page 7, you'll just see more of a closer up picture of the subject property, where the property is situated in Logan Avenue, and then just the cross street on Gwendolyn Street there. Turning to page 8, you'll just see some photos of the subject property from the front of the building. So at the top is just from one angle, and the bottom is just a different angle, just to show the building. Going to page 9, here's just this photo of the back or rear of the subject property. And at the bottom of page 9, it's just an overall view of the parcel the building is situated on. Continuing to page 10, you'll just see different photos from subject property. You'll just see an aerial view just from the back of the subject, as well as at the bottom, you'll just see another view of the subject from the front, just an aerial view. And this continues on page 11, just showing different angles, again, just to showing the overall property itself. And finally, on page 12 is just the parcel boundary and the current assessed value. And lastly, just going from pages 13 to 15, this is just the income expense memo that the property owner provided, and it is a fully owner occupied property, so there are no leases in place. That is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Smith, do you have any questions for the assessor?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for all the properties that we're looking at today, given workload at the assessment department, have you had the opportunity to inspect any of the properties?
No, I unfortunately have not had a chance to inspect any properties. That's going for all of them. No, I have not. So
yeah, certainly understandable. Just wanted to clarify that, I guess, at the beginning. Looking at the subject property, the wall height that's shown for it on the front of the brief is 16 feet. If we flip forward to your page number, I guess page number 9 is probably the best illustration.
Correct.
So if we look at the photo at the top of the page there, would you agree that the 16 feet is probably at the peak of the roof, whereas the usable interior height would be more in the 10 to 12 foot range if we look at what the clear height would be.
Like I said, yeah, unfortunately, since I haven't inspected, I can't say for certain, but you're right. Yes, you can see it's obviously the peak would be higher. So yes, you're right. You can see where the doors there would be a bit lower. Yes. So
great, thank you. And the capitalization rate. So this would, Madam Chair, this questioning, I guess, would carry forward for all the properties today.
Thank you.
The page number 5 of your brief there. So I'm just going to quote briefly from what's stated here and then ask my question. So it says, for the 2023 general assessment, April 1, 2021 reference date, capitalization rates were derived from model generated estimates of net operating income and sale prices that were time adjusted to April 1, 2021. The assessed values produced by the application of these model generated cap rates were compared. Yes. Okay. Going back to that first sentence there, which is the key aspect here. So the capitalization rates that were used in the city's model, input into the city's model on properties that transacted in the marketplace are based on estimates of NOI rather than the actuals, and time adjusted sale prices rather than the actual in place NOI at time of sale and the sale price at the date of sale. Is that accurate?
that is correct. That's what it states there. So yes, that is correct.
Okay, so we're not relying on straight market information. We're relying on the model's interpretation then of what the NOI would be and what the time adjusted sale would be. So we're not relying on actuals.
We're still looking at sales actually. So, but I understand what you're saying. But yes, but I'm not going to deviate what it states there. So yes, but.
Yeah, no, I understand. So certainly you're looking at sales. It's just that the information from that sale is not utilized. It's an estimate of what that NOI would be. So that's my question on that, I guess. If we could carry that forward for the remainder of the properties. Just a quick look at the comparables that we have here. So page number 4, rent comparable, 1642 St. James. So that would be immediately adjacent to the St. James Business Center. Is that correct? Right at the end of St. James Street?
Yeah, that is correct, yes. Okay,
and they would have a rear loading court and a front parking area in that particular multi-tenant industrial mall?
That is correct, they do, yes.
Okay. And number 1400, that would be next to, 1400 Sargent, that would be adjacent to the Superstore in Rona on the corner of St. James Street?
That is correct.
Okay. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excuse me. Ms. Duncan, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Mr. Moratsky, do you have any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay. Nor do I. So, Mr. Smith, please proceed with your presentation when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, property we're dealing with is 607 Logan. It is a multi-tenant small bay industrial. We have a total of 6,424 square feet we're showing here. The individual units are in the 1,500 square foot range. The building itself is shown on the front of my brief, so you can see there is no on-site either staff or client parking at the front of the building. It is street front. These are the the front entrances to each of the individual units. There are 4 units in total, giving us that 6,424. Property was built in 1989. It is small bay warehouse and or multi-use really. The issue with regard to the wall height, as I've shown in the photo from the city there, is that the interior height is nowhere near 16 feet. Typically, when you see an industrial building, it'll be a flat roof. And so the exterior wall height, if it's 18 feet, say, you'll have an interior height of roughly 16 and a half feet of clear height space. In this case, it's a sloping roof, and the truss structure is such that you have in the neighborhood of 10 to 12 feet in terms of interior operating area. So this is shown in the photos as we get to those. Quick look at page number 3. The property is looking at a the owner is looking at a 74% increase in assessment for 2023 to 780,000 from 448,000. Now, we don't see this type of increase in the market over that time frame. So that's a good indicator that the initial assessment is on the high side. And we can flip forward into the photos beginning on page 4. So we have the front and the rear there, grade level loading. You can see the internal spaces. Basically, they're each leased by small auto repair companies, each of the units. So you can see the condition of them and the interior build out, very basic. And in the site plan at the top of page 7, you can see the lack of rear loading area as well. Their loading area is off of the rear laneway, and it's quite restricted. Property location on page number 8, it is located within a block of Salter. So where the bridge goes over the CPR tracks there. This is located within a block to the west of that. So not in a higher end industrial park or anything of that nature. Let's flip forward to my page number 11. We can get into the income analysis. So I've given you a chart at the top of the page. The in-place rents were essentially unreliable as far as the information that is presented there. They are on a gross basis. So if I were to make the appropriate deductions and bring them down to a net basis, the rental rates would be below what market would support for the property. So we have not chosen that route. What we are doing is looking at the marketplace for appropriate rental comparables and then applying an appropriate market rate to the subject property. So my rental comparables are on page number 11. 607 Logan is our property at the top, the 6,400 square feet, broken into again, multiple units. Properties are shown here. 1555 Dublin is located in an industrial area in the north, just off of Notre Dame, essentially, to the west of Notre Dame. We have a small bay multi-tenant industrial site that's superior to this with front parking and rear loading. 2020 lease at $6.50 a square foot. Now that property was built in 1989 and has an exterior wall height of 20 feet and it is a flat roof. So they have much greater interior space in terms of utility for multiple tenancies. The The other property that property was built in 89, as was the subject. I'll also point out 205 Shepherd. 2020 lease for 5 years. This is in the Inkster Industrial Park. Property built in 1983. Again, superior wall height. Again, a superior property in terms of loading and parking, etc. And our lease there is at $6.50 a square foot for a 5-year term. Very comparable property actually is 1201 Richard. It does actually have some front parking in that property and does have rear loading, but very small bays and relatively low ceiling height, as you can see, about 12 feet. And units of 1,900 square feet roughly. We have a 2017 lease there at 6 1/4. They've probably updated that by 25 cents since that time. I have represented that property in past cycles, and they typically have a quarter 25-cent increase from cycle to cycle on their internal leases. The remainder of the leases are there for you to see. They all center in that 6 1/4 to 650 range. Very similar to the subject. Again is 1201 Richard. Superior to the subject would be 205 Shepherd and 1555 Dublin. I've applied a rate of $6.50 a square foot to the subject property. Skipping forward to the expenses, we've used the same vacancy rate as the city of Winnipeg at 6.5%. Our stats are at the top of page 12 for you to see. As I haven't had all of the panel members before, I'll read through my expense allowance discussion a single time, and we can just carry that information forward to the remainder of the properties today, just so everybody's aware of the situation. This is beginning on my page number 12, and again is in reference to the expense allowance. Now, the city of Winnipeg is using a 3% allowance for their expense allowance. Sorry, let me get my train of thought on track here. The city formerly had two components of their expense allowance. They had a 2% allowance for other, which was essentially a structural component, replacement reserve, call it. And then they had a 5% management, which they termed management expense allowance for expense allowance. So a total of 7%, 2% for structural, called other, and 5% for what was termed management. Now, this held true through the 2018 cycle and carried forward from essentially 2000 onwards through that time. For the 2020 and 2023 property assessment cycle, this has been changed by the city of Winnipeg in their analysis. The middle of my page there, I refer to the basis for the inclusion of the expenses that should be included. So the Appraisal Institute of Canada, being the governing body of the property appraisal profession in Canada, is responsible for provision of education to its membership through a partnership at UBC. Standard appraisal text provided to students is the appraisal of real estate, the third Canadian edition, et cetera, et cetera. And in reference to the income approach to value, it states in chapter 21, formula for the calculation of net operating income is summarized as follows. Potential gross income minus vacancy and collection loss, also known as vacancy and bad debt, equals effective gross income minus operating expenses that are paid by the landlord equals your net operating income. So The reference to operating expenses that are paid by the landlord refers to non-recoverable operating expenses or expenses that cannot be recovered from the tenants of a property through the standard operating expense recoveries, as they're not included in their lease, or they're specifically excluded from the lease. These non-recoverable operating expenses are standard expenses incurred by a property and serve to reduce the overall net operating income to the owner. Standard non-recoverable operating expenses include expense categories such as, but not limited to, the following: professional fees, legal, accounting, and other professional fees, asset management, which is in debate with the city of Winnipeg, landlord work, leasing commissions, tenant improvements. So tenant improvements being built out of the space for the tenant. Owner repair and maintenance, exclusive of structural repair, marketing, tenant inducements, that being free rent or other tenant inducements such as forgiveness of a portion of the rent, etc. Credit checks and property management fees, which in some cases are excluded in some leases. Typically it's included. That's a minor point. Stevenson Advisors, where I formerly worked prior to forming my own firm, I conducted a 3-year historical review of properties with full access to year-end income and expense statements with regard to determining the percentage of effective gross income that non-recoverables formed on a per property basis. We covered the years 2016 through 2018, and the results are shown on the table in the middle of the page. So we had 2 categorizations. We included non-recoverable expenses exclusive of tenant improvements. And then we did non-recoverable expenses inclusive of tenant improvements. So you can see the results of the study there. We had between 45 and 53 properties for each year. And I've provided the averages for each of those years in each of those categories. So you can see the range between 2016 and 2018, the lowest being 9.6%. And our 3-year averages were 11.5% for non-recoverable expenses exclusive of TI and 12.7% inclusive of tenant improvements. So what we're demonstrating essentially is that the removal of the full 7% expense allowance by the city does not represent market and is inadequate in estimating an appropriate reduction for this expense allowance to arrive at a fair net operating income. So rather than ask for an increase in the expense allowance from the former 7%, we're simply asking for a reinstitution of the full 7%, that being 5% non-recoverable allowance, as well as 2% for the non-recoverable structural allowance. So I'll leave it at that. If we could carry that forward for each of the properties, I won't touch on it again. We utilize the same shortfall allowance as the city at $3.85 per square foot. And we can skip forward to capitalization rate. Now at the top of page 14, and I'll try not to cover this multiple times today as well. We have 2 of the main commercial market brokerages, commercial real estate brokerages in the city, national companies, obviously, and international, Colliers and CB Richard Ellis. They have published their capitalization rate ranges for the appropriate time frame for industrial properties, and they are indicating 6 to 6.75% for Colliers and 6 to 7.25% for CB Richard Ellis. This being representative of investment grade industrial assets. Now, investment grade industrial assets in the studies that they're providing are typically of a higher nature, where you have a multi-tenant property with good loading, good ceiling height, good location, strong tenancies, etc. So the subject property would typically fall outside of that range, in that it would not typically be studied. In addition, we've provided our own capitalization rate study here on page number 14. Comparable number 1, 700 Mission. This is a single tenant property in St. Boniface, heavier industrial area. It traded in 2019, cap rate of 7.8%. We have a multi-tenant property, 891, 895 Century Street, trading in 2017 at a 6.6% cap rate. Comparable number 3, 333 Debates, single tenant property, excellent property in the St. Boniface Industrial Park with a blue chip tenancy, essentially trading at a cap of 7.4%. Number 4, 78 Hutchings, single tenant, trading at a cap of 7.2%. And finally, multi-tenant property on Sherwin and Keith, significantly larger, obviously, trading at a cap rate of 7%. Now, the subject property is would be considered inferior to each of those properties. Our most recent sale is in 2019 here, indicating a cap of 7.8%. However, subject property is considerably smaller. There can be more interest in some circumstances for properties of this size. So we have applied a capitalization rate of 7%, taking that into account. So if you look at my page number 14, rather, there is a summary of our valuation utilizing the $6.50 per square foot as the rental rate as supported by the information presented. All the other parameters being the same aside from the expense allowance, and the cap rate at 7% gives us our market value of $496,000. Now, adjacent to this, we have the City of Winnipeg's 2023 valuation, as well as their 2020 valuation. So if you look at the city's two valuation models, you can see that they've reduced the cap rate from 7.2% to 6.15%, a drop of 1.05% over that 3-year period. And keep in mind, we're in the COVID period, so there were exceptionally few transactions of investment properties to rely upon. Again, we don't see that as being representative of market value. So we have utilized a rate of 7% for the subject property. It gives us our final value of $496,000. And I am open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Harling, do you have any questions for Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I just have a question about the capitalization rates. So I guess you kind of ran over some of the questions I had, but so it looks like, I guess 4 of the cap rates are all older sales. And I know you had said there's not a lot of sales that happened within that time frame, but so I guess like the cap rate you're kind of relying on more or less is this more the 700 Mission, just because it's the most recent. I was just curious too, like I noticed I was looking at these cap rates and these sales, these are all, much larger buildings. Like I think the smallest one's 30,000 square feet. So, would these cap rates really be indicative of like a comparative to a small property like this? Like would they be reflective of that, cap rate reflective of what we're applying here? So.
Yeah, understood. So we're not, just to answer the 2-part question, I guess, yes, our most recent sale is 700 Mission. And as you can see, it's at 7.8% on a longer term lease. The subject property, as I said, is smaller. So we're utilizing essentially the lower end of our capitalization rate range at 7%. And yes, the subject property would typically perhaps draw a different investment profile as far as potential purchasers. That doesn't necessarily mean that the capitalization rates would change dramatically. Simply that the purchasers may be different as they're ability to buy the larger properties is not present.
Now there's just one other quick question I just have regarding the 700 mission. So I'm assuming for these, you've used like to derive the NOI, you took the actual NOI and divided by the sale price to get the cap rates, I'm assuming, or?
Yes, each of the properties, the in-place income and expense were reviewed and utilized in determining the cap rate.
Because I'm just speaking to this because I was looking at it. There was when I looked at the sales mailer on this property, and the cap rate that they indicated is quite a bit lower than the one that you've shown here. So I'm just wondering why there's maybe, I don't know if you can speak to that, or maybe I was just wondering, that's so you're using. But like from what you're saying, you use the actual NOI from the sales, what you're saying. So
yeah, they may be looking at the projection in the future of what the rental rate may have, what they anticipated it was going to be. I can't really speak to what they put in, but I know that we reviewed the actual income at the date of sale in determining it.
okay, yeah, maybe next time I'll have to bring that in then. So, but that's all the questions I have then. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Duncan, do you have any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moretsky.
So you mentioned the quote unquote real interior height is 10 to 12 feet. That's what you estimated, correct?
That's an estimation, essentially, yes. Looking from the photos and having been on site.
Yeah, okay. Just looking at page 1, the picture there, you had mentioned 4 units in this establishment. Just curious, I only see the 3 doors there, and also on the photo in the back, only 3 doors. So is there, where would the 4th?
Yeah, I may have been off base in the 4 units. It must be 3 as indicated. So in any case, we've applied our rental rate across the whole leasable area of the property.
Okay, so the owner occupies this property at the current time, correct?
No, the owner does not. Well, before I categorically say that, my indication is that the owner does not operate out of any of the units, and I did tour it with him. So yes, the owner is not an occupant.
So these units are rented out then? What is?
They're rented out on a gross basis, and in trying to determine what their net effective rental rates would be, it appeared that they would be it appeared that their actual rental rates would be well under what an appropriate market rental rate would be. So I didn't feel it was fair to rely upon rates such as that. That was how we approached it.
Okay, Madam Chair, I got a few more questions for the applicant, but I would like to refer back to the assessor when I'm through with that line of questioning. I just have one question for the assessor afterwards. Is that okay?
Of course, go ahead.
Okay. So page 11, your brief, you have the rent parables, I guess it would be.
Yes.
Where did you get that information?
Well, as a professional operating in the appraisal world, we collect data on properties that we're doing work on. I have connections with most of the commercial brokers in the city. We compile information on as many properties as we can, so we have a good picture of the overall market. So the information is sourced from industry professionals, as well as property owners that I represent. some of which are present here.
Okay, on page 14, regarding the capitalization rate, your first sentence again on the capitalization rates is Colliers and CBRE have cap rates 6 to 6.75 and 6 to 7.25. So if I may, again, I'll ask the chair, Madam Chair, can I refer back to the city's information on anything when I'm questioning the applicant?
Yes, we've heard the information, so that's fine.
So on the city's page 5 for Colliers and CBRE, those numbers are, those ranges are different. Why do you, what would it be your explanation of why you think that would be?
Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm looking at Colliers here, and it is indicating 6 to 6.75%. And I'm sorry, you are correct. The low end of CB Richard Ellis for industrial A, which the subject is not, none of our properties today would be, is 5.75%, 5.75 to 6% rather. So their industrial B range is 6.5% to 7.25%. So I'm sorry that that may have been a typo as far as inserting that, but the lower end industrial B for CB Richard Ellis would be more appropriate to look at, and that's 6.5 to 7.25%. So it looks like the wrong digit was put in there. My apologies for that.
Oh, no problem. Just page 14 again. The cities, you mentioned that about the non-recoverable allowances were changed from the last cycle. Did you say that? Is that accurate? That the city...
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, is that what you said? You said that the city changed it in this cycle, and in 2020 they had it at 7% before?
No, that's not quite accurate. So the city had a standard overall 7% from roughly 2000 through the 2018 assessment cycle. They changed that in 2020 and reduced it to a total of 2% in 2020, which has changed to 3% in 2023. So
okay.
If I wasn't clear on that, I apologize.
Nope, it was probably me. But thanks for clarifying that. So, okay, that's all the questions I have for the applicant. So for the assessor then, I thought that I had heard that the owner, what am I getting here? That the owner did not have any rents for this property. Isn't that what you said?
Yes, if you look on, page 13 of the, I guess maybe they filled it out incorrectly because they checked off on their, just make sure I'm on the right one here. Yeah, they checked off on the mailer. They check off fully owner occupied. So, and then they do show some rents in the back. So, but like I said, Mr. Smith stated that he's not really relying on these rents because they're gross. And so, yeah, but yeah, they did indicate on the mailer that it was fully owner occupied though. So I think it may have just been a typo on their part. So.
Okay, fair enough. That's all the questions I have then, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. I have no questions at this time. So is there a need for a summary by either party?
Nope, I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Did everybody have the opportunity to ask their questions there?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. My apologies. I have no need for summary. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll move on to the next matter on the docket, which is 820 Bradford Street. So, Mr. Harling, please proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The file number is 22-3850. The roll number is 0700231100. The address is 820 Bradford Street, and the owner is 4510402 Manitoba Incorporated. The 2023 assessed value based on a reference date of April 1st, 2021 is $912,000. If you look at the bottom of page 1, you'll see some property description information. This is an industrial warehouse use building. It's a one-story building. The actual year and effective year builds are 1959. The wall heights are 12 feet. It is zoned M2 manufacturing. Land area is 34,757 square feet, with a plan area of 8,015 square feet, as well as a net leasable area of 8,015 square feet, which gives us a land plan area of 4.34. If you go to page 2 of my brief, you'll just see the request for income information has been received. There are no recent sales on the property, and we don't have any subject leases in place. Going to page 3 of my brief, you'll see the income workup of the subject. So the leasable area is 8,015 square feet again. We are applying a model rent of $6.92 a square foot, which gives us a potential rent of $55,464. We're allowing 7% for vacancy, which again gives us an effective gross income of $51,582. Again, we're allowing 3% for non-recoverable expenses, as well as $3.85 a square foot for shortfall, which gives us a net operating income of $47,875. And we're applying an overall capitalization rate of 5.25%, which then gives us an estimated market value of $912,000. If we go to page 4 of my brief, you'll see my rent comparables. So the lease start dates range from 2018 to 2020. Lease terms range from 2 to 10 years. Leasable areas range from 3,780 square feet to 9,874 square feet. The wall heights range from 12 to 14 feet. And the effective year builds range from 1952 to 1975. And lastly, the net rents range from $6.27 a square foot to $8.25 a square foot. So, and then you'll just see the locations: Notre Dame, St. James, Dublin, Erin, Clifton. So they're all, again, very close within the region of the subject property. Let's go to page 5 of my brief. Again, we're applying a 5.25% cap rate. This is a lower cap rate. It does follow outside our typical 20th to 8th percentile. So I would consider this as more of an outlier cap rate. So being lower at 5.25%. And the reason for the lower cap rate would be due to the fact, again, of the size, location, and also the land to plan area would be another factor of generating that lower cap rate. Going to page 6 of my brief, just the Municipal Assessment Act excerpt information. Now we turn to page 7 of my brief, you'll just see the subject property map. So again, here at the top, you'll just see a zoomed out photo of where the property is located within the St. James area. At the bottom of page 7, you'll just see the subject closer in and then where it's located on Bradford Street. If we turn to page 8 of my brief, you'll just see a photo of the subject property from the front. And then at the bottom, you'll just see an angled photo just to show the kind of the overall building. This continues on page 9, just to showing a different view of the subject from the eastern side. And then at the bottom of page 9, you'll just see the overall parcel view of the subject and how it's situated on the piece of land. This continues again on page 10, just showing different photos of the subject from different angles, just to show the overall property or building. And then finally on page 11, it's just the another photo of the subject property from the front, just showing an aerial view of the building. Go to page 12, just one more photo again from the back to show the rear of the subject. And then just again the parcel boundary and the current assessed value of $912,000. And lastly, if we go to page 13 of my brief, you'll see the income and expense mailer. This is partially tenanted, so you'll just see the rent for the tenanted space that is being tenanted. And then just this continues on page 14, just the income expense mailer, the income information on this property. That is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Do you have questions for Mr. Harling?
Yes, just one or two. The subject property yard, it would be gravel surfaced. That would be accurate, right?
That is correct. Yeah, it would be gravel, yes.
Okay, and the loading would be at the rear of the site?
That is correct.
Okay. Capitalization rate you had touched on briefly here. So we're looking at significantly older property being built in 1959 and a very low wall height of 12 feet, which would limit the potential tenants and rent typically in demand for that property. Just wondering how the 5.25%, which is below the 20th percentile by a fair bit, would fit in with those aspects.
As I said, like I said previously, I understand that, I mean, 1959, I understand it's an older building. Actually, it's very common to have a lot of the buildings within that area of that age, so it's not uncommon, but I understand what you're saying. Lower wall height. Again, looking at the smaller area and the land to plan area would be my thought process of why for the lower cap rate. So that's all I can really speak to that. So.
Okay, and the land to plan area ratio at 4.34. Typically, we're looking at 4 as being generally what is being is searched for as being adequate. Is that correct? So this is.
I wouldn't say this. I mean, I wouldn't say that necessarily adequate, but yes, but you're right. That's typically the standard ratio, though. Yes. So.
Okay. Those are all my questions. Thank you. Actually. Madam Chair, so I always find it somewhat confrontational when I ask questions on the rent comparable. So and the assessor may or may not know that information. Did you want me to present that as verbal rebuttal or actually question the rental comparables?
Well, you can just question them. I think the assessor understands.
Okay, enough. Just wanted to touch on that, I guess. So 1574 Aaron Street. We've got a wall height of 14 feet there, built in 56, similar area. And the rent there is $7 a square foot. Would that be one of the better comps for the subject?
Yeah, I wouldn't dispute that one. Yep.
Okay. The second property is Westro Business Center. It's a very large industrial strip mall with an office building on site, St. James in Dublin. That's owned by an institutional owner. Lots of parking out front. Excellent loading. Would that be on the high end?
This would be a bit higher. Yes, I won't dispute this one would be a bit superior. Yes.
Fair enough. Yeah. 1500 St. James Street. So it's on St. James. This is Metro Propane, and they're on a 1.7 acre site. And with a 10.34 land to plan area ratio, and they store their trucks and they have their propane tanks there for loading the trucks, etc. It's essentially for the yard space. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. Yeah.
Okay. 1500 Notre Dame. It's at the corner of Notre Dame and Dublin, with excellent exposure to the Notre Dame traffic. A little bit more of a I won't say retail, but more commercially oriented. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I won't dispute that. Yeah.
And then finally, 1325 Clifton. I would think this would be a pretty good comp for the subject. Similar area. It's one street west of Erin. 14-foot wall height, built in 59, and our rental rate is $6.27 a square foot. Would that be closer to being representative of the subject?
I would actually argue this one be slightly inferior to the subject. So, but so that's my personal opinion. So
yeah, fair enough. Thank you very much. Those are all my questions.
Thank you very much. Ms. Duncan, do you have any questions?
I'm just wondering from Matthew's standpoint, why is Clifton less superior?
Well, I believe this one here on Clifton, just pull it up here. Actually, I was just looking at it. Just give me 2 seconds here. Apologize. Just give me 2 seconds here. Okay. This actually, well, this property actually has I apologize, maybe I should have shown some pictures of it, I guess. So, but this one does have quite a bit lower land to plan ratio than the subject. I believe it's like almost a 1-to-1. It is slightly smaller than the subject. I don't believe it has, doesn't have as much space for parking and such like that. So, but I won't dispute it's in terms of like it's located in kind of a similar industrial area, but I just think it's inferior in the sense, like I said, without showing pictures, it does have a lower land to plan ratio, less space for parking. It doesn't really have any loading bays. So those would be some of the reasons why I think it would be inferior.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moretsky.
Yes, your on page 3, your non-recoverable expense ratio of 3%. Do you have any empirical data or any explanation or any other data that supports how you arrived at 3%?
Well, I mean, we previously, or like I understand Mr. Smith went into the whole information, how we had changed it. Now, well, we kind of, the board, I mean, I'm not sure if you've heard our position on this a lot, so I don't have any information previously. In our previous cycle in 2020, we had information in there, but the reason for the 3% is we were finding, we look at, all the properties, we get their income expense mailers, we review them, and we were finding many properties were fully recovering their expenses, or 3% was adequate what we were seeing. So that is the reason why we've applied the 3%. I know it was 2% in 2020, but based on the fact of things like COVID and such, which did affect properties, we felt another percentage would be more fair to the property owners for recoverable expenses. And again, we've analyzed the income expense mailers for many properties, and that's how we derived our non-recoverable expense of 3%. So I don't have any information on it, but that's just speaking to it. That's kind of how we derived it, though. So we look at the whole picture, if you will, and look at many properties to derive it. So if that kind of answers so, but
yeah, so those were actual, based on actual data, then actual information, actual expenses from.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, we analyze all the income expense matters we get. So we look at the actual expenses, and that's what we were finding. So that's why we applied the 3% though. So
okay. But is there a study out there that actually, outlines all of that?
Like I said, in our previous cycle, we had information regarding kind of showing samples of like expenses from properties we were seeing to kind of show like an average of what we were seeing for the typical for expenses. I apologize, I don't have anything this cycle. We do have something potentially. Maybe I could have to going forward. I could see if I can put that in, so I could maybe present it so you can see it more, to kind of see where we're coming from, other than just speaking to it. So, but
all right, okay, no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have no questions for the assessor. So Mr. Smith, please proceed with your presentation when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we're dealing with 820 Bradford Street here. We have a photo of the property on the front of my brief there. You can see that there are 2 occupants in the property. One of them is the property owner, and the other was a larger tenant that shrank to become a smaller tenant and is no longer in the property. So it's fully owner occupied at this point in time. If we look at my page number 3, we have a bit of background on the property. So 2023 assessment at $912,000 represents a 69% increase in the assessed value for the subject. It was reduced to $541,000 in the prior assessment cycle at the Board of Revision. And our market value in this cycle that we're presenting is $607,000 based on the information we'll run through here. Again, property's older, built in 1959, so significantly older property in the industrial sphere. Lower ceiling height of 12 feet to go along with that. This is essentially at the bottom end of ceiling heights for industrial properties. You don't really see them lower than this. What this creates is a situation where it limits it to tenants that don't need ceiling height. So you're essentially cut out a significant portion of the market where they either need it for their manufacturing or production, and or warehousing where they need racking, etc. So you limit yourself to potential users of the property. That, of course, has an impact on the rental rate that can be charged in on the open market, as well as demand for that property on a sale basis. So that needs to be kept in mind. Let's flip forward to the photos. Beginning on page number 4, so we have exteriors of the front and the rear. As you can see, it's gravel loading, or rather a gravel surface lot. The photo at the bottom of page number 4 indicates where the loading is. It's somewhat difficult, given the narrowness of the site, to get the trucks backed up to the dock level loading there. So somewhat challenged parking. The issue of land area can sometimes be a bit misleading in terms of the orientation of the property. That is the case for the subject. It's longer and narrower, which leads to difficulties in the loading area. So moving forward, we have some of the interiors. The top is the owner of the property, Carberry. That's just their front area, and then the rear is the warehouse for them. As you can see, we're looking at wood deck ceiling there, structure, so obviously indicative of the age, 1959. And you can see some of the social issues that they face in that area as well, I guess, at the bottom of page 6. So the site is shown on page number 7. You can see that by pointing out of the narrowness of the site and the challenges with loading. And the actual location is shown on page number 8. So we are located in between the two sides of Route 90, north of the I guess it's Wellington, that runs into the airport there. So that is the location. Moving forward, we should look at the income approach for the subject property. So subject property is owner occupied. There was a small tenant of 300 square feet, which used some of the yard area as well. However, they're not there anymore, having exited in October of 2020. They also received rent forgiveness for a period of time in 2020 as well, prior to leaving. So I can't really rely on any of the rental information with regard to that tenant. To start with, 300 square feet is not particularly commercial in nature. It's more the owner had additional space and they opted to rent it out on a short-term basis in that case. Prior to that, they had a larger tenant that shrank as well. So we don't really have any arm's length tenancies to rely on. So again, we need to look at the market for appropriate rental rates. That's what we've done. We have a 8,000 square foot leasable area for the subject property, built in 1959 with a 12-foot wall height. So let's look at the comparables that are out there. What we've given you here are small bay industrial tenancies in multi-tenant properties, typically of roughly the same size or as close as we can, and in that same time frame leading up to the valuation date. So 1635 Burroughs, 2017 lease for 3 years at 6.25%. Built in 92, 18-foot wall height. That is Inkster Park, 1516 Inkster, also Inkster Industrial Park, 2018 lease for a 1973 building with significantly superior wall height at 20 feet, $6 a square foot. for 6750 square feet, again, 1516 Inkster. I see that we've duplicated one of our rental comparables, number 2 and 3 being the same. 199 Eagle, this is a multi-tenant property, 2019 lease over a long-term, 5 years, $6 a square foot for over 5,000 square feet, 1979 construction, 18-foot wall height. So again, superior in age and wall height. 51 Bannister is perhaps my best comparable. Again, multi-tenant. We have 2019 lease for $6 a square foot, 6,000 square feet, so close to the size of the subject. Built in 69, so a little bit older, not as old as the subject, but an older property. And we have a 12-foot wall height there. Now, that is leased for $6 per square foot. The remainder of them, I won't go through all of them. Again, these are multi-tenant properties in good industrial locations, typically with paved front parking and rear loading areas, etc. So generally superior to the subject. $6 per square foot is what we have elected to use as representative of the subject. If you look at 51 Bannister again, that's probably the best indicator of market rent for the subject. Our other parameters remain the same as the cities, with the exception of the expense allowance, where we are at 7% and the city is at 3%. So we are not, I won't cover that ground again. We can skip forward to my page number 14. So again, the subject property would not fall within the typical ranges studied by Colliers and C.B. Richard Ellis. It's not necessarily an investment grade industrial asset. It's owner occupied. Older property, lower ceiling height. This wouldn't typically slot within their range. We've again got the same capitalization rate study that I have presented in my chart at the top of page 14, ranging between 6.6% for multi-tenant property on Century Street, up to 7.8% for the Mission Street property. Now, the subject property is older. It is, however, as noted, smaller than the capitalization rates comps that we have presented in our study here. There may be slightly more demand for it. So we have applied 6.5% to the subject property in our analysis. As you can see, that fits again within the Colliers and C.B. Richard Ellis range. 5.25% simply would not be paid for a property of this age, ceiling height, location, graveled lot, challenged loading, etc. So if we look at the summary chart on page 14, you can see that our final market value estimate is $607,000. Again, that's based on a $6 a square foot rental rate. You can see the other parameters, 6.5% cap. Adjacent to that, we have the City of Winnipeg's 2023 and 2020 assessment models. And the city has reduced their cap rate from 6.4% to 5.25% in their analysis. Again, we simply don't see that on the marketplace, a drop of 1.15% over that time frame. And that is essentially my presentation. There may be questions on the I&E. It looks like the owner has made an error in completing the tenant verification, as Carberry International is the owner's company, and they're the sole occupants as of the valuation date, and they at that time occupied the larger area of the property as well. That is my presentation. when I am open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Harling, do you have any questions for Mr. Smith?
Yeah, just curious, looking at some, as I stated, I haven't inspected any of the properties, but just going to page 5. So like just in the pictures, I noticed you see pictures of the building. So it's like they have something, this looks like almost like a kind of like a retail space essentially, right? I mean, they're selling, because this, I mean, this quality looks like it's pretty good, you know, retail quality space here. So is there like, what exactly is that what this is used for? Like they're selling, you know, clothing and such here, I guess, just from the picture on page 5, I guess, or?
So this is a very small area of the building. It's essentially just the front part of one section of it. Carberry International makes sporting uniforms and work uniforms and things of that nature. So these are you don't come in and buy these. These are display items essentially for teams to look at and then order their properties. So it's not really a retail. It is that, again, that very front section is commercial in that regard, but it forms a small area space. The vast majority of it is warehouse.
So just out of curiosity, you know the breakdown by chance of how much space is each?
I don't have that breakdown, unfortunately.
Okay. That's all the questions I have, actually, then. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Duncan, do you have any questions?
No questions at this time.
Thank you very much. Mr. Moretsky?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Nor do I. So is there a need for summary from either party?
No, I'm good, thank you.
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you very much.
Actually, Madam Chair,
Oh.
well, I did have one quick question for the assessor. Right? No? There is reference to the reduction of the cap rate by the city from in 2020 to 2023 from the 6.4 to 5.25. What was the reason for the city changing the cap rate in that period?
I'm gonna be honest with you. You know, I can't speak to that because, like, I'm just looking at the evidence that's we're currently assessed at. Again, we're looking at a different reassessment cycle, so there's many factors that would play into that. So there's not one answer, unfortunately. I apologize. So,
thank you. No further questions.
Thank you very much. All right. So prior to moving on, I'm going to ask that we take a short recess.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Robertson?
what time or how long? Sorry, roughly.
How about, was 10 minutes? Is that good,
Sure,
everybody?
yeah, sure. Thank you.
Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.
Goodbye.
Okay, thank you very much. Welcome back, everybody. The next matter on the docket is 961 Jarvis Avenue. So, Mr. Harling, please proceed when you are ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The file number is 22-3849. The roll number is 14002980800. Excuse me. The address is 961 Jarvis Avenue, and the owner is GMT Holdings Limited. The 2023 assessed value based on a reference date of April 1st, 2021 is $1,353,000. If you go to the bottom of page 1, you'll see the property description information on the subject. You'll see it's a one-story building. The effective year builds range from 1967 to 1979. The wall heights range from 16 to 22 feet. The zoned M2 manufacturing. The land area is 82,603 square feet. With a plan area of 23,415 square feet, a leasable area of 22,565 square feet, and a land to plan area of 3.53. If we go to page 2 of my brief, you'll see the request for information has been received, and the most recent sale happened in 2017 at $1,050,000, and we currently have no property leases in place. If we go to page 3 of my brief, you'll see the income stream and the breakdown of the subject. So you'll see here we have 11 separate PIDs on this particular property, which gives us a total leasable area of 22,565 square feet. We are using an overall blended rent of all those rents at $5.27 a square foot. So that's the overall blended rent. This gives us a potential rent of $118,850. We're applying 6.5% for vacancy, which gives us an effective gross income of $111,132. Again, we're allowing our 3% non-recoverable expenses, and then $3.85 a square foot for shortfall, which gives us an overall net operating income of $102,151. And lastly, we are applying an overall capitalization rate of 7.55%, which gives us an estimated market value of $1,353,000. If you go to page 4 of my brief, you'll see some of my rent comparables. Continues on page 5. Again, this particular property has many premises, so I'm just trying to show comparables, showing the whole entire areas. So my comparables range from start dates from 2015 to 2020. The lease terms range from 4 to 7 years. Leasable areas range from 1,200 square feet to 21,080 square feet. The wall heights range from 14 feet to 19 feet. And the net rents range from $5.75 a square foot to $6.75 a square foot. And then, see, I'll just see some, and you can just see obviously the locations here. Some of these are in St. James, Clifton, Spruce Street. So we've kind of seen some of these actually already previously in some of the other properties we've spoken to. If we go to page 6 of my brief, this is just again, the cap rate information. Now we're applying again a 7.55% cap rate. So this falls well within the range of the 20th to 80th percentile. It actually falls outside. So again, this would be like kind of more of an outlier, because I stated previously where we had the lower cap, sometimes we'll have caps that are higher. So I believe that cap is reasonable. And just looking at the other published rates, our cap rate, is higher than all those cap rates too. So I think our cap rate is more than supported. Go to page 7 of my brief. You'll just see the municipal assessment accurate information. Going to page 8 of my brief, you'll see the subject map of the subject property. So at the top there, you'll just see where the subject's located on Jarvis Avenue. And then at the bottom of page 8, you'll just see more of a zoomed in picture just to show the building closer up, which are located on Jarvis Avenue. It's also, yeah, you can see where it's close to McPhillips Street. So go to page 9 of my brief. You'll see some photos of the subject. So there are actually 2 buildings on this property. So this is the first building. There's a little bit of office space there and some storage space there from my understanding from the back. Again, I have not inspected this property, so I can't speak to the specifics of everything. But so the bottom page 9, you'll just see kind of just more of a different view of the subject of the one building. And we'll go to page 10. This is the opposite building. You can see the top picture there. You'll see kind of the other metal steel building there on the other side. And at the bottom of page 10, you'll just see the rear of that building at the back there. Page 11 of my brief, you can see a better overview of the overall parcel. So you can see the one building there at 961 and then 969, just different addresses. It's all the same parcel. We just have it separated as different addresses, just differentiate the buildings. So you'll see the one building on the right side, on the side there, and then you'll see the other smaller building on the other side. Go to page 12 of my brief, you'll just see some more aerial photos, just of different angles of the photo of the subject, just to see the overall buildings themselves. So again, the top of page 12, just the angle view, and then at page 12, you'll see the bottom. Page 13, this just continues, just showing different angles of the subject for the smaller building and the larger there. Continues, and then on page 14, you'll just see the parcel boundary and the current assessed value of $1,353,000. And then lastly, on page 15, this is the income and expense mailer that the property owner has provided. I haven't really checked off it. I believe it is tenanted. Just looking at the leases, though, this looks like they've all expired based on this information. I'm not sure if there's new leases in place, but just based on the lease end dates, they've expired in 2020, all the leases that I can see in here. Maybe Mr. Smith can have more information regarding that, but that is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Smith, do you have any questions for Mr. Harley?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Duncan, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I just, what you said the blended rate was.
Oh, sorry, it's $5.27.
Thank you.
I do have one question, actually.
Sure.
Okay, sure. Go ahead, and then we'll move on to Mr. Moretsky.
Um,
Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
Sorry, so page number 3, the model here. So the first leasable area, 55,415 square feet at $4.82 a square foot. That is the separate building, the owner occupied building.
I believe that is correct, yes.
That's my only question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions for Mr. Harling?
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. Nor do I. My question was actually answered. So we will move on to Mr. Smith's presentation whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So property we're dealing with is 961 Jarvis. There are 2 buildings on site. The original building, which the property owner occupies with his business, was built in 1967. And one portion of it, well, the main industrial portion of it has a 22-foot wall height. You can see that it's long and narrow. It's essentially a truck bay. And then they have a small office component that is built off of that as well. The second building on site, as you can see on the front page of my brief on the far side, is small bay industrial. There are 12 units in that building, built in 1979, and it has a 16-foot wall height. Now, each of the units is 1,500 square feet, so some of them have been combined into 2 bays. Each of those units is very basic. They have concrete floors, open insulated walls, open deck ceiling with fluorescent lighting. Each of them have a floor drain, and you have a grade level door on the front with a man door at the rear. So only one entrance. They're not drive-through or anything. And the units, there's one gas-fired furnace heater per every 2 units. So that is how the property is heated. Not every unit is actually heated. Now, let's jump back to page number 3. Property was assessed at $1,353,000. This is up from $1,065,000 in the 2020 assessment, and our market value for the subject is $1,193,000 based on our analysis. Property is partially owner occupied, and we have, I guess I've probably described in enough detail each of the units. So we have a 16-foot wall height on the small bay property, and we can get into looking at the photos here. So 2 exteriors, 1 of each of the buildings. On page 4, we have 2 photos of the small office area in the owner occupied building on page 5. And then we have a photo of the interior of that space on 2 photos of it on page 6. So as you can see, it's a trucking and trucking repair outfit, cinder block construction, all very basic, ceiling hung heaters, etc. Fairly heavy use over that time frame, so its condition is representative of the age of the property and heavy use thereof. When we move into the other property, you can see a photo of that at the bottom of page number 6, as well as the top of page number 7. So that's what the inside looks like. You can jump forward if you wish to my page in the addenda A-3. The tenancies that are in that small bay industrial are mostly automotive and trucking related. So we have a landscaping company, we have an excavation company, a towing service, a couple of trucking outfits, a number of trucking outfits actually, heavy truck repair, etc. So that's the type of tenants that are in there. So let's move forward to the description is shown on page number 8. The site is shown on page number 9. I will point out that this is a gravel surface lot. It's not paved, so that needs to be kept in mind when we look at comparables. And the site of the property is shown on page number 10. It is on the west end of Dufferin, north of the CPR tracks area there. I wish we had a closer aerial just to give you a better indicator. What I can tell you in extensive discussions with the property owner is that the area is has an issue with crime and is socially challenged. Of course, it's not a residential area, but what the owner sees happening on a continual basis is crimes of opportunity where break-ins happen in their property, lots of graffiti and property damage, and it doesn't end. It seems to be an ongoing issue, and it's driven by the location that the property is in. So that needs to be kept in mind with regard to demand for both tenant space as well as properties such as this as an investment property. So let's move forward to the actual valuation on page number 13. The separate building that's owner occupied, obviously no arm's length lease in place. The other building built in 79 with the 1,500 square foot units, they're leased on a gross basis, and they lease between $4 a square foot gross and $14 a square foot gross, with average expenses varying year to year. The ones that I've reviewed ranged between $6 a square foot and $9 per square foot. So in some cases you get essentially a negative return, but in general you're seeing rental rates that on a net basis would be below market value. So again, we're not relying on those gross rental rates to apply market value, as it would give you a lower than accurate reflection of market value. Resultant average rental rates for the property should be around $5 a square foot, but they're hard to determine in there. But we believe that as a market rent, they should be about $5 per square foot. Now, given the location and what the property is and the amenities that it provides. So let's look at some comparables on page 13. I have a couple of excellent comparables on Oak Point Highway. So again, the property is essentially a number of truck bays, both the owner-occupied building as well as the other one. As you can see by the tenancies they're in. So looking at 265 Oak Point Highway, this is a property that is virtually identical in terms of the bay sizes and the use, ceiling heights, etc. And it is used as by various trucking companies for repair of their trucks and just general operations. So 2 leases there, comparables 1 and 2, both 4,500 square feet. So 3 bays in that particular unit. Built in 71 versus the subject in 79, 18-foot ceiling height versus 16-foot. And they're renting at $4.50 a square foot. Now, those were in 2016 and 2018. We might see a slight rise from that. 261 Oak Point Highway, immediately adjacent. $5 a square foot for a marginally smaller space at 1,250 square feet, 18-foot ceiling height, again, $5 a square foot. So same use. The remainder of our properties here, as you can see, range in terms of rental rate between a low of $4.75 a square foot and a high of $5.10 a square foot. Some of these are in superior locations, such as Keewatin, Sherwin, Keewatin, etc. These would be superior buildings. The leases are a little bit older, so you may see some slight rises in rental rate from that time frame. But again, keep in mind that each of these buildings would be considered superior to the subject in terms of location, as well as the building itself. If you look at the ceiling heights, generally they're superior to the subject, and similar ages as well. So we believe that a rental rate of $5 a square foot is well supported by those comparables. Again, the first three being the most appropriate. Looking at the remainder of our valuation, we only differ in expense allowance and capitalization rate. So I have covered expense allowance. I'll flip forward to the cap rate issue again. Now, we have a property with small bay, essentially very bare bones units. There's no built out of office. There's no washrooms on site in any of these units. No plumbing. The heating is of a very basic nature. They are, for all intents and purposes, just truck bays or storage, things of that nature. They're not equivalent to a normal multi-tenant industrial warehouse bay where you would have perhaps a small office and plumbing for a bathroom, etc. If we look at the occupancies, again, it bears out that these are all trucking firms or very similarly related properties, and they're looking for the bare bones, and that's what this property is. So a rental rate of $5 a square foot is appropriate. When we take into account the area that the property is located within, as well as the short-term nature of the leases. So I think this is already mentioned, but the leases are generally either on a year or on a month-to-month basis. So if you look at the leases that are in place in the income and expense, they're all expiring at the end of 2020. If we go back to the end of 2020 and look at the industry at that time, obviously everything was in flux, so occupancy may become an issue. Certainly the area is rougher, has a higher crime rate than many other industrial locations. We believe a slight premium to the cap rate at 7.75% is appropriate. This is summarized on my page number 16. Capitalizing our net operating income at 7.75% gives us a market value of $1,193,000. And that is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Harling, do you have any questions for Mr. Smith?
I think it was kind of answered already, but I'll just a quick question. Just looking at the rent comparables on page 13, like I guess you kind of mentioned that these are older lease terms, so it's probably more likely that these would be higher typically than now. I'm not sure if you had like these leases since they're older, they probably would be higher. I'm assuming like what you kind of stated, obviously. So
they would probably renew slightly higher, but again, they're all generally somewhat superior to the subject property.
Okay, yeah, okay. That's actually all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Duncan, do you have any questions for Mr. Smith? Oh, you're on mute.
No questions, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Moretsky?
I have no questions, thank you.
Okay, nor do I. Is there a need for summary from either party?
I'm good, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you very much. So the next matter on the docket is, 560 Shepherd Street. Mr. Harling, please proceed when you are ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The file number is 222826. The roll number is 1406-403-0500. The address is 560 Shepherd Street, and the owner is 5532116 Manitoba Limited. The 2023 assessed value based on the reference date of April 1st, 2021 is $1,511,000. If you go to the bottom of page 1, you'll see the property description information. This is an industrial warehouse use property. It's a one-story building. The effective year built is 1972 with a wall heights of 24 feet. It is zoned M2 manufacturing. Land area is 43,821 square feet with a plan area of 16,016 square feet and a leasable area of 16,000 square feet. This gives us an overall land plan area of 2.74. Let's go to page 2 of my brief. You'll see the request for income information has been received. There are no recent sales on the subject, and we have no subject property leases in place. Page 3 of my brief, you'll just see the income workup of the subject. Again, the total leasable area is 16,000 square feet. You're applying a model rent of $6.30 a square foot. This gives us an overall potential rent of $100,800. We're allowing 4% for vacancy loss, which gives us an effective gross income of $96,768. You're allowing 3% for non-recoverable expenses, and then $3.85 square foot for shortfall, which gives us an which gives us a net operating income of $91,401. And we are applying an overall capitalization rate of 6.05%, which gives us an estimated value again of $1,511,000. I'll go to page 4 of my brief. These are my rent comparables. They range from lease start date of 2016 to 2020. Lease terms range from 3 to 10 years. Leasable areas range from 10,010 square feet to 19,709 square feet. Wall heights range from 14 feet to 22 feet. The effective year builds range from 1956 to 1981. And the net rents range from $6.50 a square foot to $8.78 a square foot. And then just on the right, you can see where they're located. So we have Alexander, Erin, Notre Dame, Sargent, St. Matthews. So a combination of Inkster and St. James as well. So in there. Going to page 5 of my brief. Again, we're applying a cap rate of 6.05%. So looking at our 28th percentile, the 6.5 falls within our range. Just looking at some of the other published rates, but I believe we have support there as well. Page 6 of my brief, just the Municipal Assessment Act reserve information. Page 7 of my brief, you'll see the subject property map. So at the top, you'll see a zoomed out map of it where it's located on Shepherd Street, and just above you'll see where Inkster Boulevard is. Bottom page 7, you'll just see again the subject property on Shepherd, just a closer view, and then you'll just see how very close by Inkster Boulevard is close by. Page 8 of my brief is just some photos of the subject. So with the page 8 at the top, it's just the front photo of the subject, and then if you look below, you'll just see another angled view of it. Page 9 just shows some more photos. Again, this is just a view from the side. And bottom page 9, you just see the overall aerial view of the subject and the parcel of land where the building is situated. Page 10 of my brief, this just continues, just showing multiple photos and just of the different angles of the building as well as the rear at the bottom of page 10. We go to page 11. Again, just further views of the subject. So you can kind of see where its relation to is on the Shepherd and then where Mr. Boulevard is. And lastly, on page 12, you just see the parcel boundary and the current assessed value. Page 13 through 16 is the income and expense mailer. Page 15 is actually where the actual rent is the actual rent in place. And then page 16 is just the expense information. That is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Smith, do you have any questions for Mr. Harling?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Duncan, any questions?
No question. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moretsky, any questions?
I do not. Thank you.
Nor do I. So Mr. Smith, please proceed when you are ready.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So we're dealing with 560 Shepherd Street. This is an industrial warehouse located in the Inkster Industrial Park. Originally built in 1972. We have a total of 16,000 square feet of leasable area, exterior wall height of 24 feet. It is masonry construction. And we have a land to plan area ratio of 2.74 to 1. So that is on the lower end, less than optimal. Typically, you're looking for 4 to 1 or higher if possible for industrial properties. For exterior yard storage, truck circulation, loading, etc. So let's move forward to my page number 3. The same information is listed there. Site sits on, or rather the property sits on 1 acre of land built in 1972. And we can look at the photos beginning on page number 4. So we have exterior of the front, exterior of the loading area. You can see there's some improvements that need to be done at the back. Some shots of the interior front display area for the Olympia Tile tenant. With the older finishes, etc. It is the commercial zone, and then the majority of the property obviously being storage at the rear. You can see the warehousing on page number 6 and the loading at on page number 7 there, as well as some of the internal workings, as well as an exterior shot of just some work that needs to be done on the site paving, etc. Again, site is shown on page number 9, relatively low land plan area, 2.72 to 1. And the location is shown on page 10. Now, moving forward into the valuation, we're essentially looking at a cap rate issue here, and I am going to make a small adjustment on that front. Our in-place rental rate is actually higher than what the city is utilizing, so we won't get into reviewing the information on that. Suffice it to say, we use the in-place rent, and I've provided backup for that on page 13. The remainder of our valuation parameters outside of the expense allowance match the city's, with the exception of the capitalization rate. Now, the subject property would, again, typically, given the size, land to plan area ratio, age, it would typically be a Class B industrial property. So if we look at the CB Richard Ellis range of 6.5 to 7.25%, with Colliers being at 6 to 6.75% at the upper end for investment grade industrial assets. Our capitalization rate comparables remain the same. If we look at the subject property, there's a couple of things that are important to look at here. We have a property built in 1972, so it's a little bit older. And obviously there's a bit of wear and tear that's indicative of that particular age. With the subject, balancing that, it does have a high wall height at 24 feet, or relatively high wall height, certainly for that time frame. But we have a single tenant, which is not national in nature. It's a local company. So your assurity of that tenant continuing is lesser than if it's a national company. The tenant is less solid in that way. More so, it's a single tenant. So if that tenant does go bankrupt and need to leave early, or they leave at the end of their term, your building is 100% vacant rather than partially vacant if you have a multi-tenant property. If, say, you have a 4-bay property and one of your tenants goes dark or leaves at the end of their term, you have 25% vacancy for whatever time span it takes to lease that. In a single tenant property, you have 100% vacancy over the time that it takes to lease the property. So the other issue that we're looking at here, land to plan area ratio, again, it's on the lower side at 2.74 to 1. So from a tenant perspective, that limits the amount of exterior storage, etc., and loading access that can be done. So I had initially applied a cap rate of 6.75% to this particular property. I'm going to make a slight downwards adjustment to 6.5% after reviewing the information further. And when we use 6.5%, this gives us a market value of $1,440,000 for the subject property. And that is my presentation, and I'm open for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Harling, do you have any questions?
Nope, I think I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Duncan?
No questions.
Thank you. Mr. Moretsky?
No question, thank you.
Thank you. Nor do I. So is there a need for summary from either party?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The next property on the docket is, number 6, which would be 111 Cordite Road. I believe there's a non-cooperation request.
Yeah, there is a preliminary issue. I'll just quickly go through that so.
Okay, so please go ahead with the preliminary issue.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'll just read the property description quickly here. So file number is 222965. The roll number is 04006173,000. The address is 111 Cordite Road, and the owner is B4C4 Holdings Inc. Yes, there is an issue with the non-cooperation. So we did not so I will just quickly go through that. So if you just go to page 15 of my brief, you'll see the expense mailer. This is the blank one we sent out, or sorry, this is a blank mailer. We always send out an initial mailer and initial mailer in May, and then when we do not receive it back, we'll send out a certified mailer. So this is the blank certified mailer we sent out. So this is just page 15 and 16 to the blank mailer and 17. Then just page 18 and 19. This is just the information we received from Canada Post that we had sent the document. And then just page 19 here is just the delivery information. So that's the information I have regarding the non-compliance. So I'll let the board make their decision.
Thank you very much. Mr. Smith? Do you have any questions for Mr. Harling regarding this issue?
Yes, just a couple. So the with the exception of the particular year that you're looking at here, the property owner has been compliant. Is that accurate?
They have been mostly, yes. There's a few years they missed, but for the most part, they have been pretty compliant, yes.
So you would have the 2019 year. I realize it's post reference. You also have the 2021 year as well. Is that fair? Is that accurate?
Did check? I didn't check unfortunately 21, but I will take your word. Yes, I believe we do. I can double check just to make sure, just so I can verify. Yes, we did. Correct. That is correct. We did get it. Yes.
Okay, and the subject property is owner occupied, so there would be no income for the property to be included in the model. Is that fair?
No, there's no income, but any owner occupied property, we send all our mailers to all property owners, regardless of owner occupied or tenanted, because we will use like the expense information. So I understand that there's no tenants in there, but the information is still valuable in terms of the expense. It's how we derive our expense analysis. So that is the reason why we still request it from owners, though. So.
Okay, those are my questions.
Thank you very much. Ms. Duncan, any questions?
No questions.
Sorry. Oh, no questions? I didn't hear you. Sorry.
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you. Mr. Moretsky?
Yes, on the Canada Post, what is that, the tracking letter?
Yeah, I guess that would be on page 18 and 19. Yes, that's the item number, that's the track number we would have, and the delivery date. Yeah.
There's no signature on the signature line. Why is that?
Well, we just have this the signatory name, but you're right. I'm just going by the information that I have on file that I was able to recover from them. So just on page 19, it says delivered and signature available on request. So I believe it's available on request, but I don't have it physically on here. I guess I didn't really go into checking that, but I'm just going by what the information on page 19 states, that signature is available. So.
signature is available.
Correct. If you look on page 19, you just look at the delivery progress report at the top, June 10th. So
I don't quite know what that means, though. Signature available. Can you elaborate on that?
like I said, I unfortunately, like I said, other than like I had the signatory name on page 18, but other than that, I didn't have the signature on file. So I don't know what Canada Post had requested they might give it to us, but I just I didn't go that far, to be honest with you. So I can't speak to the specifics of it. So
Okay, no further questions. Thank you.
Actually, Madam Chair, I do have one for Mr. Smith.
Well, Mr. Smith hasn't presented his evidence yet, so.
Oh, sorry. And then
Sorry.
I would like to wait. Thank you.
Okay, I have no questions for Mr. Harling at this time. So, Mr. Smith, please go ahead with.
Madam Chairperson, do you not, for the non-co-op, do you need the, never mind.
Yeah, for the non-co-op, yeah. So,
Yeah, no worries. So looking at the income and expense issue. So as I mentioned, the property owner is typically diligent about filling these things out and sending them in. They don't keep copies of what they send in. So they don't have any way to back that up. As far as they knew, they completed and sent it off, but I can't show that to you. However, as I indicated, they are an owner occupant. There is no income. The expenses are there for the property for prior years and future years for the subject. When I look at the city's evidence with regard to the income and expense mailer, a couple of things pop up. Main one being there's nothing, and I'm not the first to point this out. These are the standard things. Typically, there's a photograph of the registered letter with the address of the property that's being delivered to, as well as the item number, etc. We don't have that. We don't have the signature. What we do have on page 18 and 19 is the indication of the item number, delivery date, etc. No signature. We do have the name, which is the property owner, which indicates they received it, but we don't have any evidence with regard to that item number being delivered to that address. As you can see, a notice card was left, and then I guess they had to pick it up as shown on page 19. Beyond that, and this is the part that always puzzles me. So when the income and expense mailer is sent out initially to a property owner, it's just sent in the mail. So that's what page 15 would be. So this would not be a registered letter. And yet when we look at the registered letter here, it indicates it has that code on it, LP 657131194CA. There's no way that the income and expense mailer could have the item number from Canada Post for a future time frame for a letter that hadn't been sent out yet. That's what the information on page 18 and 19 is the second issuance of that letter, not the first one. Whereas the page 15 would be either the initial letter or even, I know I'm belaboring a point here, but even if it was the second issuance of this letter, it still would not have the Canada Post tracking number because it only gets that when it goes to Canada Post. So I'm baffled by how the letter on page 15 could have that tracking number on it. In any case, that is my information. In discussions with the owner, again, they're typically very diligent in this, and he believes that it was sent off, but has no backup to provide on that front. And that is my discussion of that issue, I guess.
thank you very much, Mr. Harling. Do you have any questions for Mr. Smith?
I guess I just want to confirm. So the mailing address, I guess, is the same mailing address. Like 11 Court 8 would be the 111 Court 8 would be the mailing address, correct? Though I guess that's just the only question. I just want to make sure we have the right mailing address that you know of.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all the questions I have then.
Thank you. Ms. Duncan?
My answered, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Moretsky?
No, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And my question has been answered. So we will now take a brief recess to discuss this.
Relay.
Thank you very much. The board has, after hearing the evidence on the non-cooperation issue, the board has made a decision. We are not granting the request for non-cooperation. So Mr. Harling, please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The file number is 22-2965. The roll number is 0400617300. The address is 111 Court 8 Road, and the owner is B4C4 Holdings Incorporated. The 2023 assessed value based on the reference date of April 1st, 2021 is $1,611,000. Now, if we go to bottom of page 1, you'll see the parcel use as an industrial warehouse. There are 5 buildings on the subject property. It's a 1-story building. The effective year built range from the actual years built range from 1970 to 1980, with a roughly an effective year built overall of 1970. Wall heights range from 11 to 20 feet. The land area ranges from 128,792 square feet, with a planned area of 19,218 square feet, with a leasable area of 18,800 square feet. This gives us an overall land to plan area of 6.70. If we just go to page 2 of my brief, we've already spoken about their income information. There are no recent sales on the subject, and we currently have no subject leases in place. So going to page 3 of my brief, you'll see the income workup of the subject. So we have 3 premises you'll see here. And you'll see the 3 rents, model rents. The overall model blended rent is $6.23 a square foot, is which we are applying at the 18,800 square feet of leasable area. This gives us a potential rent of $117,042. We're allowing 3% for vacancy, which gives an effective gross income of $113,531. We are allowing 3% for non-recoverable expenses, as well as $3.85 a square foot for the cost of cost to cover vacancy at shortfall. This gives us a net operating income of $107,954. And we are applying an overall capitalization rate of 6.70%, which gives us the estimated value of $1,611,000. If you go to page 4 of my brief, you'll see my rent comparables. So my rent comparables range from lease start dates of 2016 to 2020. The lease range from 1 to 8 year leases. The leasable areas range from 4,528 square feet to 20,000 square feet. The wall heights range from 12 to 20 feet. The effective year built range from 1964 to 1983. And the net rents range from $6.03 a square foot to $8.93 a square foot. And then you can just see some of the locations of my rent comparables. Goldsby, Turin, those would be closer to the subject. Heron Street would be obviously in more downtown. Notre Dame, St. James, 131 Court 8 is actually right adjacent to the subject. And 1733 St. Matthews, again in the around the Heron Street area. And then Stapleton, this is just off of Narren Street, further behind Narren Street. So these are some of my rent comparables. Go to page 5. We are again using a cap rate of 6.70%. So just looking at our 28th percentile, so that falls within the range of what we're seeing for cap rates. And just looking at the other industry leaders, Colliers here being Cushman Wakefield. So I believe our cap rate is supported by that as well. Some of the factors that would be driving the cap rate would be, again, 1980 and 70 building, slightly older building. Wall heights are not bad for that era, 11 to 20 feet. And it's got a very large land to plan ratio of 6.70%. So it's got a lot of extra land. Page 6, just some municipal assessment act reserve information. We go to page 7 of my brief. You'll see the subject property where it's located at the top there on Court 8 Road. Highway 59 is just adjacent to the left of the map you can see there. And if you go to page 7, you'll just see the photo of the subject property at the bottom there, where it's located in Court 8. Page 8 of my brief, you'll see some photos of the subject. So at the top, you'll see the front of the building. And this goes into the bottom of page 8. You'll just see different photos of the front of the building. Page 9, you just see an overview of the parcel of land. So you can see it's kind of like a triangular shaped piece of land. Most of the buildings on the side where they have the space on the other side of the parcel of land. Bottom of page 9, you'll see more of a zoomed up photo. So you'll see kind of the buildings. They have the 1, 2, 3 buildings. They're all connected there, and then you have the Quonset in the back. So some of the other detached structures they have. This continues on page 10 just to show different angles of the subject. So you'll notice obviously it's obviously not, it's a gravel road, not paved. And then if you go to page 11, you'll see another photo just showing the different buildings on the subject from different angles here. So you'll see there, and then you'll see another angle at the bottom of page 11. And then lastly on page 12, you'll just finally see another just view of the subject. Page 13, I just included a little floor plan that we have just to kind of show you, because our through premises, how we have it broken down, so to see the different areas for the different buildings. This is the floor plan I was able to acquire of the building, so just to kind of show a little bit more of the area of the buildings and what's entails in these buildings. Page 14 is just the parcel boundary and the current assessed value, which is covered. And then page 15 through 20, we've already discussed, which was the other information. That is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Smith, do you have questions for Mr. Harley?
Yes, just a couple. Thank you, Madam Chair. So in looking at the valuation model on page number 3, so the city has the subject broken up into three different units: 11,800 square feet, 5,200 square feet, and 1,800 square feet to form the total. When I look at the rents that are applied, they seem to be scaled in terms of the size of the unit. So the larger one is at $6.10 a square foot, slightly small, well, half the size, $6.35, and then 1,800 square feet at $6.69. If the property was considered as a whole rather than individual units, so 18,800 square feet, am I correct in assuming that the rental rate would be south of $6.10 a square foot?
Well, as I said, we're using a blended rent of all these together. So I mean, I don't know where you calculated that, but again, it's broken into 3 individual areas. Also, if you look at the floor plan, that's how it's been set up. So it is technically separate buildings. I understand they're connected, but they are technically separate. That's why we're assessing it like that. So unless you tell me something otherwise, but you know, we're using a blended rent of 623 though. So.
Okay, but the subject property is owner occupied, correct?
It is owner occupied, correct.
Okay. Then just quickly looking at the rental comparables on page number 4. So as you'd mentioned, 131 Cordite, this abuts the subject property, correct?
That is just adjacent, correct.
And it's a 12,000 square foot lease at $6.03 a square foot?
That is correct.
Okay. Just briefly, 2120 Notre Dame, that's owned by an institutional investor, Artis REIT, is that correct?
I'm not sure 100% who owns that, so.
Okay, and it has had extensive redevelopment to modernize, improve the parking, the loading, the functionality of the property, and they've redone the exterior. Is that?
Yes, I mean, but I will note that it is an older lease too, so that would be, I think the rent would be higher actually if you look at the newer lease in place potentially. But anyways, yeah, no, but it is superior in that sense. I won't dispute. So.
Those are all of my questions, I think. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Duncan, do you have any questions for Mr. Harley?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions for Mr. Harley?
I do not, thank you.
Thank you, nor do I. So Mr. Smith, please proceed with your presentation.
Okay, thank you. So 111 Cordite Road, you can see an image of the subject property on the front of my brief. It was built in 1970 with an addition in 1980 on what would be the eastern side of the property. The wall heights range between 11 and 20 feet for the subject, the 11 feet being the office component of the property. Looking at my page number 3, we're looking at a jump in assessment from 1,177,000 in 2020 up to a 2023 assessment of 1,611,000. So 450,000 roughly. I didn't work out the percentage there, but again, it's very significant increase and doesn't reflect the reduction that was applied in the last cycle. Our market value for the subject property for this cycle is $1,302,000. So again, original property constructed in 1970 with the addition in 1980, sitting on 3 acres with 18,800 square feet of leasable area, land to plan area ratio of 6.95 to 1. We'll talk about that in a bit. Photos of the property. The subject site is gravel surfaced. If you look at my photos, beginning on page 4, some of the exterior. So the top photo is the original building. The bottom photo is the addition. You can see what we're looking at there, as well as some of the exterior. The office area is very basic for the property and relatively small. We have a staff room at the top of page 6, and then we get into the property itself. The property is owned and occupied by a manufacturer. They manufacture heating components, and you can see the evidence of that in the photos. So their manufacturing process, some storage photos, and some of the addition as well on page number 8. Let's move on to the site. So we have a 6.7 land plan area ratio. Now, one thing to take into account here is layout. We don't have a traditionally square or well-shaped rectangle for the subject property. The property is narrower on one end, wider on the other end, as at the rear of the site is CPR CN tracks, and they have to follow the limits of that property for the properties that were established on Cordite Road. So the 6.95 to 1 or 6.7 to 1 is somewhat misleading in that all of that additional land would be on one end of the property and is relatively shallow in terms of the depth of that particular property. So is it there? Yes, it is. Is it, as useful as one might want? Probably not. The other thing to consider, and I'll talk about this while we're looking at the site photo, is that Cordite Road is gravel surfaced and has ditch drainage, and it does not get the same service in terms of plowing and maintenance that paved and more heavily occupied streets in the city get, whether they be industrial or residential. So they frequently have issues with getting to the site when we have snow events. Plowing doesn't take place very regularly. It becomes very bumpy. Drainage is an issue. And frankly, the surface of the road can be fairly terrible In the summer, this particular owner calls about the condition of the roadway regularly. When we look at that as an issue with regard to the real estate, well, what does that impact? It would impact the desirability of the property from a tenant's perspective as to whether they would want to locate there. And then if they felt that that they could, what would they be willing to pay for a site like that in comparison to a similar sized, similar aged apples to apples comparison in a industrial park in the city with better location? So that obviously has an impact on rental rate. If we look at the comparable that the city has provided immediately adjacent, so abutting this property to the east, on the city's page 4, 131 Cordite, leasing at a rental rate of $6.03 a square foot for a smaller space of 12,000 square feet. So you can see the impact there. We have 18,800 square feet. Clearly, there's going to be economies of scale at play. We also have heavy industrial use, and the rental rate should match that accordingly. So let's look at the location, page number 10. Again, this is zoomed out a little too far for my liking, but in order to access the property, you turn off of Route 90 to the east, onto, and I don't have the roadway here, whether it's grassy or a road to the north of that, you turn off of Route 90 onto the paved roadway that heads east, and then you immediately turn north onto the gravel surfaced Cordite Road that takes a bend and then heads east on Cordite. So not great access to the subject property either, certainly less than ideal. This obviously has an impact on desirability of the property. Let's skip forward to the valuation. Again, it is owner occupied. We have 18,800 square feet, built in 1970 and 1980. We had an exterior wall height of 19 feet rather than 20, but in any case, it's in that range. The comparables that we've provided are all in better locations within the city of Winnipeg, typically in an industrial park. So let's look at what we have here briefly. Try to have similar sizes and leases as close to the valuation date as we can, and as comparable in other ways as possible as well. So subject property is a heavy industrial use. If we look at 700 Mission, we have a 2017 lease there at $5.25 a square foot for 36,000 square feet, so larger than the subject at $5.25. Built in 72, 18-foot wall height, so very similar in those regards, although it is larger in terms of space. So the rental rate for the subject would generally be somewhat higher than that. 700 Mission is a heavier industrial area of St. Boniface Industrial Park. And we can skip forward, look at some of our other comparables here. A couple on Century there, 993 and 645 Century, built in 72 and 68 with 20 and 18-foot wall heights, area of 11,000 and 18,000 square feet. And we have rental rates there of $4.80 a square foot for a 2020 lease and $5.50 for a 2018 lease with a 5-year term, so extending beyond the valuation date. There's a lot more here. Again, they're typically in industrial parks with paved roadways, paved sites, generally better loading, etc. And as you can see, the sizes are in and around what the subject is at 18,800. And our rental rates range from the low of 480 at Century, 485 at 155 Paramount, or 24,000 square feet, built in 75, 20-foot wall height. That's the low end, and we get up to $5.50 per square foot. Now, if I look at the city's comp adjacent to it, it's $6.03 a square foot. For a slightly smaller space, I look at the comparables that we have here. I do believe that our rate of $5.50 a square foot is accurate for the subject property in terms of representing a fair market rent. Skipping forward, our other parameters are the same as City of Winnipeg's, with the exception of the capitalization rates. We've applied a 7% cap rate to the subject property. Again, all of the other information remains the same here. Our one example of a property in a heavier industrial zone is 700 Mission, that trading in 2019 at a 7.8% cap. That is in close proximity to the Loveday mushroom plant in St. Boniface. So it's not in the St. Boniface Industrial Park, which is off of Dugald, but in that area to the east of Archibald, west, or rather east of Provencher, in that section there. So what do we have with the subject property? We have property with a poor location, poor access, poor roadway, older property, again, built in 70 for the main part of the property with an addition in 1980. Heavier industrial use, we believe that a cap rate of 7% fairly captures the subject property. So we've applied that in our valuation as seen on page number 16. Summarizing the valuation, it comes to $1,302,000. I will point out the 2020 board decision, which I believe is included, was based on our valuation with the exception of the cap rate where the board used 7.25%. That is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Harling, do you have any questions for Mr. Smith?
I guess just one question. So, because I know you're talking about the excess land, and I understand. Yes, you're right. It's a slightly irregular shape, but there, you can't say that there's no, potential for that land. They could, expand on it, or even have it as surplus land. Correct, though.
I'm not denying that the land is there. It is there.
Okay, that's all the question I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Duncan.
No questions. Thank you.
Mr. Moretsky.
So the owner occupies all of the building, correct?
Yes, I think they had a very small portion where Hydro was storing some excavators or things of that nature for a period of time, but with the remainder of the property, they do occupy it, yes.
And it appears as if it's partitioned off every second door or so.
That was how it was built in 1980, yes. Now, I don't know what the original intent was. That was a different owner at that time. So they may have had intent of finding small bay tenancies, but that's really not happened. With the exception, I think they leased one space, a small space to Hydro on an intermittent basis, is what I understood.
Okay. Yeah, it would just seem kind of awkward to run that shop with all those partitions there. Must be a little awkward for them to move around in there.
Yeah, so just I guess to speak to that point, so they didn't design the property, obviously being their purchase of the property goes back to 2012. So it was in the shape that, or the design that it was at that time. So they were largely buying for the main building with the additional space being there for their, storage, etc.
All right. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I have no questions. So is there a need for a summary from either party?
I am good, thank you.
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. So I guess we will move on to the last item on this morning's docket, which is 400 Turen Street. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So Mr. Harling, please proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The file number is 22-3660. The roll number is 063020700200. The address is 400 Turin Street, and the owner is SMJ CJ Investments Limited. The 2023 assessed value based on a reference date of April 1st, 2021 is $2,044,000. If you look below on the subject, you'll see some property description information. You'll see it is a industrial warehouse use or industrial use. It is a one-story building. The actual year built range from 1987 to 1999, with an overall effective year built of 1989. The zoning is M3 manufacturing heavy. The land area is 55,395 square feet, with a planned area of 17,866. The leasable area is 17,707 square feet, with a land to plan area of 3.10. Going to page 2 of my brief, you'll see the request for information has been received. There are no recent sales histories, and I don't have any subject leases in place currently. I believe they're on the mailer, but I don't have them in here. So page 3 of my brief, you'll just see the income workup. So we're classifying this as a flex type warehouse building. So you'll see we have 7 premises and the different areas of each of the premises for the total area, leasable area of 17,707 square feet. And we are applying an overall blended model rent of $7.82 a square foot. We are allowing 4% for vacancy loss, which gives us the $139,021 for the potential rent. Then we are allowing 4% for vacancy loss, which gives us an effective gross income of $133,460. We're allowing 3% for non-recoverable expenses, as well as $3.85 a square foot for shortfall. This gives us an overall net operating income of $126,719. Lastly, we are applying an overall capitalization rate of 6.20%, which gives us an estimated value of $2,044,000. Turn to page 4 of my brief, see my rent comparables. So they range from lease start dates 2017 to 2020. The lease terms range from 2 to 8 years. The leasable areas range from 1,562 square feet to 5,448 square feet. The wall heights range from 16 feet to 22 feet. The effective year built range from 1975 to 1982. And the net rents range from $7.25 a square foot to $9.75 a square foot. And then you'll just look at the side locations. So 405 Turn, close to the subject, 805 Marion, Niagara, Debates. These are all within the subject market region. So go on page 5 of my brief. Again, we're using a cap rate of 6.20%. So looking at our 28th percentile, so that falls within the range of cap rates we're showing. Is looking as well as looking at the other published rates by Colliers here, being Cushman Wakefield. So I believe it's supported by that. Another reason for the cap rate would be due to the fact of the age. So it's 1989 building. The effective year built. It's not a new building, but it's definitely not very old. And 17,000 square feet, roughly, not a large building as well. So those would be some of the factors for the cap rate. Page 6 of my brief is just some municipal assessment act excerpt information. Going to page 7 of my brief, you'll see some of the photos of the subject property. So at the top here, this is where the subject property is located in Fort Turin. So you'll see Bugle Road is close by. 59 Highway is very close by as well. I'm going to put the bottom of page 7. You'll see the subject property on Panet Road, where it's located, and you'll see Turin Street, where it's just adjacent to of Panet Road. I guess I should have mentioned this. There's actually 2 buildings on this property. I should have mentioned that sooner, but I'll show in the pictures if it'll make more sense. So this is the first building. So this is the one on Turin Street. So you'll see here the front of the building, and then at the bottom of page 8, this is the side of the building. And then the top of page 9, this is the rear of the first building that we saw in the other photos. And then going to the bottom of page 9, the 2 photos at the bottom, this is the secondary building on the parcel, on the piece of land. So, so this is the second building from the front and the back. And I have some more photos to kind of show it more so you get a better idea. So if you go to page 10 now, you can kind of see a better idea of the 2 buildings here. So you see the one building on Turn Street and the other one on Panet Road here. So you'll see the overall parcel of land. On the bottom of page 10, you'll see further photos of each of the 2 buildings. Page 11 continues. You'll just see the back of the first building at the top there. And at the bottom of page 11, you'll just see some further photos of the 2 buildings and how they're situated on the parcel of land. And lastly, on page 12, just another photos of the 2 subject property, or the 2 buildings on the subject property. And then lastly, on page 13, 14, this is the income and expense information that we received from the property owner. That is our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Smith, do you have any questions for Mr. Harley?
Just one question. I have rebuttal after, but just one question, I guess. The model's projected rent for the subject property is significantly higher than the actuals reported in the income and expense for the subject. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I just some questions about that after, but yes, that is correct. Yes. So.
Okay. That is my only question, I guess.
Thank you very much. Ms. Duncan, do you have any questions for Mr. Harley?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions for Mr. Harley?
Is the entire, both buildings fully rented out?
From my knowledge, I believe they are fully tenanted out. Mr. Smith might have more information, but as far as I know, and based on the mailing information, I believe they are fully tenanted. So yes.
All right. Okay, no further questions.
Thank you. I have no questions. So Mr. Smith, please proceed with your presentation and then we'll go through questions. And once we're done that, then you can present your rebuttal.
Okay, so you, Madam Chair, you'd like me to present the rebuttal at the end, is that correct? Or
yes, but we'll do your presentation first and then we'll ask the questions on your presentation. And then once we're done that, then you can do the rebuttal.
Okay, fair enough. So subject property is 400 Turenne Street. It is 2 buildings on a single site. The original building being built in 1987 with the additional one built in 1999. We have relatively low wall height here at 16 feet and 17 feet respectively for the properties. And a total leasable area according to the rent roll for the property of 17,778 square feet. Now, the zoning for the property is M3, manufacturing heavy, so it's a heavy industrial zoning. And if you look at either the city's brief where it indicates the location or my page number 11, you can see the location of the subject property here. So 400 Turenne is located north of Marion Street, off of essentially on the corner of Panet Road and Turenne Street is where the parcel is located. Now, again, looking at page number 11, and this is a significant issue in terms of demand for the property and value. It's located in that heavy industrial area. So we have Maple Leaf Foods processing plant on the corner of Marion and La Jamodier, kitty corner to, well, very close in proximity to the subject property. So you have the noxious fumes from that particular plant adjacent to where Maple Leaf is. There is I'm not entirely sure of the process, but we'll call it a rendering plant, where the offshoots of that process are further processed, and noxious fumes are emitted from that particular industrial user as well. So this particular area of St. Boniface Industrial does deal with that particular issue, and what we're looking at there is significant impact. So I'm looking at page 11 here, my description, as you can see, Maple Leaf Foods rendering plant, and then the Ravase Canada, there it is, meat byproducts processing plant, again, in very close proximity. We also have the mushroom plant, Loveday mushroom plant, a little to the north. The noxious odors are generated during the course of business. So during the business day, significant detrimental impact on the surrounding area, impacting the desirability of the surrounding area for commercial and industrial usage. Creates external obsolescence for the subject property. So an impact not from the site itself or the structure, but from the area with which it's in, and the impact of that surrounding use on the value of the property. So you need to look at that from the perspective of tenants as well as an investor in the property. So as a tenant, all things being equal, what are you willing to pay for rent in this location versus a location that has an identical property without that particular issue, as well as the industrial area, the heavier industrial area that it's in. Let's skip back to page number 3. So 2023 assessment represents a 95% increase in assessed value for the subject property. 2020 assessment was reduced to $1,050,000. I believe the city of Winnipeg has appealed this to the municipal board. The decision there was based on my valuation, which I've included at the back of the brief, based on a cap rate of 7.5% and in-place rental rates. Description of the buildings. So there's, again, 2 buildings on site, built in 87. With another building built in 99 is what I have here. They're both small bay, multi-tenant light industrial buildings. Interiors are of the building fronting on Turenne, have small, older improvements in the small office areas for each of those units, or reception areas, whatever you want to call them, with warehouse at the rear, grade level loading doors with access at the back. The unit interiors are heated with gas-fired heaters, and the improvements are generally original to the date of those units. So there hasn't been any significant investment in these units over time. They are what they are. We'll see that in the photos. HVAC units are all original and essentially require immediate replacement. The building roofs are also original to the date of the buildings, are indicated according to the owner to need immediate replacement as well. They have ongoing issues with water penetration and ongoing maintenance, roof maintenance issue. Foundations of the westernmost building, so that's the larger one fronting on Turenne, have considerable shifting due to the soil type, which has damaged the building footings as well as the exterior cladding of the building. So all in all, we're looking at considerable expenses for the property owner for the condition that the property has. Let's move forward to the photos of the property. So page number 4. We have photos of the 2 exteriors, Turenne's frontage on the top of page 4, Panet's frontage on the bottom of page 4. So Key Breeze is a boat repair place, which you'll see. Western Safety is, well, they provide signs and safety equipment. Site photo at the top of page number 5, interior of one of the front units. This would be the boat repair place. You can see the age of the improvements, the level of them, etc. Really no change since it's been built out. The same for the warehouse components. You can see photos on page 6 into page 7. The owner's unit is shown at the top of page 7. And onwards onto page 8 with some further interiors there. Now, structural, it's difficult to show these issues, but the footing issue is an ongoing issue. They've done the mud wreckers route, the mud injecting, that's been unsuccessful, and essentially they're looking at a greater capital investment in order to fix this particular issue for the property. Site is shown on page 10. We've discussed the location on page 11, and then we can skip forward to the valuation. I've given you the net rents that are in place for the subject property. At the top of the page, you can see that they are all in that $5.22 to $5.90 a square foot range. We have utilized a net rental rate of $5.75 a square foot for the slightly larger owner-occupied unit in the space. In order to look at whether these rental rates are appropriate, we need to look at the market. Now, keep in mind this both this particular building and the condition of it, as well as the location, do have an impact on market rental rates. So let's look at the market in comparison. Our units being 2,000 to 5,000 square feet. So that's what we've looked at for comparables. These are all multi-tenant, relatively standard multi-tenant industrial warehouse properties with office at the front, warehouse at the rear. And you can see our range in rental rates from a low of $5.25 a square foot up to $6 per square foot. So let's look at what we have. 69 Eagle multi-tenant property in the west, north of the airport off of Oak Point. 2018 lease at $575 for 6,000 square feet, 16-foot wall height. Built in 79, relatively standard, straightforward. Keewatin, Inkster Industrial, 5,000 square foot, roughly $5.65 a square foot for a 5-year lease in 2018. Excellent location, built in 1980, greater wall height, good loading, etc. A couple in the similar area as the subject, 955 La Jamoje. Much larger at 35,000 square feet. So we're not basing it on size, but we have a 2018 year lease there at $550. That is fronting on La Jamoje, significantly superior, obviously, in terms of wall height. Age is a little bit older. We're not putting a lot of weight on this, but we are providing you with rents that are in the immediate area. Number 5, which should be 4, 214 Debates. This is an excellent multi-tenant property in the St. Boniface Industrial Park. So not the same area as this. This is that dedicated, more recent park that is off of Dugald. Lots of multi-tenant properties, lots of newer properties. This one was built in 1988, 2017 lease for 3 years at $6 a square foot. A little bit larger at 13,215 square feet. And we have a 20-foot wall height. This property has excellent loading, good on-site parking for staff and visitors. It's superior property to the subject. There are more there. I'm not going to run through each of them, but as I've said, each of these properties would be considered superior to the subject, and yet they support the rental rates that are in place at the subject. Now, Intuitively, if you're looking at the property as a tenant and you have the option of locating in this property with the issues that it has, as I've described, versus another location for an identical property, you would be willing to pay more in those locations than you would for the subject. So we believe the in-place rental rates are appropriate and are reflective of market value for the subject. It is an investment property. The owners do want to maximize their return, so they would charge more money if they could, but this is what they're able to achieve on the market. It is also professionally managed as well, so they would be getting advice from property managers on that front as well. We believe the rates are appropriate, and we've also assigned $5.75 to the owner-occupied unit. To save us a little bit of time, I believe the remainder of our parameters are the same, with the exception, of course, of the expense allowance with all of the properties today, and the capitalization rate. So let's skip forward to my page number 18. Again, we have the same information here. We have Colliers and CB Richard Ellis information, CB Richard Ellis being 6.5% to 7.25% for industrial B properties. Our cap rate study remains the same, running from 6.6% at the low end up to 7.8%, with a concentration between 7 and 7.4, 7.5%. 333 Debates, located in the newer St. Boniface Industrial Park off of Dugald. Significantly superior property, trading at 7.4% in 2017. Given the location, the issues with the property, the rental rates they're able to achieve, we believe a cap rate of 7% is appropriate to the subject. And that, as summarized on page 18, gives us our final market value of $1,242,000. So again, based on the actual rental rates, which carry forward on their leases, standard vacancy, appropriate expense allowance, standard shortfall, and a cap rate of 7% gives us $1,242,000. This is an increase from the $1,050,000 that the property was reduced to in 2020. And again, it's based on the actuals. If you look at the City of Winnipeg's valuation of the subject property, they have changed their capitalization rate from 7.25% in 2020. Again, this is on my page 18. Reduced it from 7.25% to 6.2%. So slightly over a 1% drop in cap rate in that time frame. Again, we simply don't see that on the marketplace. And for the subject property, it would not be appropriate either. So this is this is one of those situations where the modeling does not reflect the on the ground situation. So our final market value is $1,242,000. We've provided the decision from the 2020 Board of Revision, which was based on my valuation, which is the very last page in the brief, with a cap rate of 7.5%. And that is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Harling, do you have any questions for Mr.
I do have a few questions. So those tenant leases that are in place, I was looking at the mailer and I noticed all these leases, these leases are long-term leases. So the first one, like we have one lease at 2006, 1984, 2010, 1987, and 1990. So these are clearly very long-term leases. So have there been any step-ups since they were implemented, these leases, or do you know if these rents have been in place for those lengths?
Yes, I do know that, and there have been changes. So not to be facetious, but obviously they wouldn't have the same rent they would have in 1990 or whenever the tenant initially went in, right? 1987. I can't make out each of these on my fuzzy copy here, but Yes, there have absolutely been changes to the rental rates over time for those tenants that are in there on a long-term basis. So yes, that is the case.
So do you know when maybe the most recent ones were by any chance at all, or?
I don't have that information, but I do know that they are looked at regularly, and on the expiry of any term, there's always an increase to the tenant as long as they're able to achieve it on the marketplace. But again, it's dependent on what the market will support, right? So they get the maximum that they can from the tenants.
Okay, so then but that's okay. No, that's good. That answers that question. And just like, I guess just look at some of the rent comparables. I know you've kind of went through them. I've went through them. So I know some of them are obviously expired. So for example, like I know the one at 214 Debates. I know you say $6. I looked at that one. That's actually a $7 rent now. But I understand what you said, that you believe that's superior. The one at 955 Lashimodi, that's like a 67,000 square foot industrial manufacturing warehouse. That really wouldn't be, I believe, comparable to the subject.
So to that, if that's a question, and I agree with you on Debates. So yeah, I didn't have the more recent renewal that they may have gone through. You've got my points on that. 955 Lashimodi, I think I discussed this. I'm not putting a lot of weight on it.
Yeah, that's true.
Area, it's obviously significantly larger at 35,000 square feet.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. I apologize. Yeah, you did say that's correct.
No worries. It's been turned into a multi-tenant warehouse.
Okay. And I know you just kind of mentioned some of the issues of the property. So I was just wondering, have they, like I know you said the foundation issues, like have they done any other than, like I know you said the roof was in immediate repair. Have they done any repairs on the roof or any of that kind of stuff all yet, or?
They have an ongoing program of maintaining the roof, but their indication from the property manager was that it needed replacement. I'm not aware of whether they have done that yet. I don't believe they have. And they were in the process of getting quotes for the footing issue. Obviously, being Winnipeg, some areas are heavily affected by shifting with our clay soils.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I have then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Duncan, do you have any questions for Mr. Smith?
Yeah, just a couple. How long has the current owner owned the property?
I'm not sure if I put that in here or not. I don't want to give you inaccurate info. It was not recent enough for me to include it, I guess. So over 5 years, certainly.
Okay.
But I don't have that detail.
Okay, and then on page 9 of the photos, it shows some of the issues with drainage. I don't see any, like on the eaves and downspouts, I don't really see anything in there that would be trying to channel the water away. Has the owner tried to assist with the drainage issues and repair that? Because that's a pretty easy repair, not repair, but actually helping out with stopping it from dropping right down to the foundation. Right. Yeah. And point taken, certainly. And yes, they do. They typically, and I don't know why they're not in this shot, but typically they do have the downspouts running the water away from the building. Yes. So as a responsible owner and with a professional property manager in place, they do look at those issues, of course. I can't explain why they're not shown here. Okay, that's it for my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moretsky, do you have any questions?
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. My question has been answered. So, Mr. Smith, please proceed with your rebuttal evidence.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So, obviously, the rental rate for the subject property is a critical component here. And so what I've presented as far as rebuttal is just images of the comparables that the city has presented so that we have a clear picture of what's being compared. We don't always have time to do this, but I felt it was important in this case. So just looking at the city's page 4, the rental comparables as well as my rebuttal evidence. So my page number A1, the first property is located across the roadway from the subject property, 405 Terren. It's a superior property from the subject, more recently built in 82, as 20-foot exterior wall height. You can see the level of construction there. I've given you a photo of the front and the rear. Loading is better access at the rear. You have a higher warehouse space for racking, etc. The tenancies that go in here are typically of a slightly higher range. So you can see that there's a grill in there on one end, so a restaurant. So again, that property is across the road from the subject property, and it would be considered superior to the subject as seen by the rental rate that they're able to achieve there for the one comp that's available. I don't know what the remainder of the property generates, whether it's lower than 750 or higher, but that's that particular property. Bottom of the page, 850 Marion. So comparable number 2. This is a multi-building investment property on Marion, so in the same general area as the subject. You can see the level of that property in compared to the level of the subject property from the photos. Superior loading, better construction. If you look at that, it has a 22-foot wall height, built in 81, has better profile, etc. So it's going to draw higher rates in that location. Skipping forward, 1329 Macwood Road East. So this is located fronting on Fermor, essentially. 1329 Niagara. It's the top of my page E-2. The property there, built in 79, 22-foot wall height, $8 a square foot for a 2020 lease. Now, your exposure here is significantly different, obviously, than it is where the subject is, and they're generating $8 a square foot for one tenancy in there. Significantly superior property. 119 and 129 Debates is shown in the middle of page A2. Similar property to the subject, 16-foot wall height, built in 79. This is in the actual St. Boniface Industrial Park, so that newer specific industrial park off of Dugald, so it doesn't deal with the same noxious fume issues. Multi-tenant property, institutional investor, and because of where it is and the amenities for it, they're able to produce a higher rent. I forget the actual owner of that, but it's a larger institutional investor. 48 Durand, also in the St. Boniface Industrial Park off of Dugald, same as the Debates property, $750 a square foot for an 18-foot ceiling height, 1980 building, 2020 lease. Now, again, significantly superior property in a better location. That is also institutionally owned by Bentall Kennedy, and they have an excellent loading court, dock, and grade level loading, and adequate space for semi-trailers to turn around and access the loading bays. And then the last one is shown on the last page, 1301 Dugald, fronting on Dugald. This is where the The boat and trailer dealerships are located on Dugald on the other side of the road. It's almost a commercial building, as you can see. It's called Dugald Plaza. They have Subway as a tenant and a rentals outfit there. So 20-foot ceiling height, vastly superior location in terms of visibility and demand, and that impacts the rent. So when we look at the subject in comparison to these, obviously it's going to be inferior to the rental rates that are present here. Oh, I'm sorry. 119 and 129 Debates is owned by an institutional investor called Quadrille. They invest and manage on behalf of pension funds. So that is essentially my information. What I'm demonstrating is that the comparables are for superior properties, which don't really give you an adequate reflection of what fair market value would be for the subject property. And that is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Harling, do you have any questions on Mr. Smith's rebuttal evidence?
I mean, I understand where Mr. Smith's coming from. Again, these comparables, they're close to the proximity of the subject property, similar attributes, age, wall heights. That's why I chose them. I think they're still representative. But
sorry, Mr. Harling, do you have any questions for him?
Any questions? Oh, no, I have no questions on that then. Sorry, no, I apologize.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Duncan?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Moretsky?
No questions, thank you.
Nor do I. Okay, sorry, Mr. Harling?
Yeah, no problem. It's no, it's fine. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Okay, well, that I guess, and there was no rebuttal evidence from city on this?
I have no rebuttal evidence, no.
Okay, so thank you very much. Is there a need for summary from either party?
I just have a point I'd like to actually make as an overall summary. I just noticed in all the briefs, and I understand why Mr. Smith put this in. He's put in the previous decisions in, and I understand why he's done it. But I'm just saying to the board, I mean, seeing as we're dealing with the 2023 assessments and we're, whatever happened in previous decisions, I understand that. But I'm just saying to, if the board, we're just looking at comparing to what we're looking at now to now, not really whatever happened in those previous cycles. I understand where there was, for or against us. I'm just asking the board to really rely on the current evidence. That's all I'm saying. So I just feel like it's more appropriate. That's my thought, final summation, if you will. So.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Any need for information?
Yes. So just on a similar note, yes, it is important, obviously, to look at the current information with regard to the assessment. Establishment of the market value for assessment, which we've done on both sides and presented that to the panel members. However, it is important as a quasi-judicial body not to ignore the history of the property either. We're not comparing assessments to assessments. What we're providing is background information to the panel on the history of the subject property that's under appeal. So it is relevant and should be taken into consideration. Thank you.
That's your opinion, but okay, yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much. I'm just checking the docket. Okay, we have heard all the items scheduled and this hearing is now adjourned. So thank you very much, everybody, and good afternoon.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Bye.
Sorry, Michelle, were you? Oh.
Thanks. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.